In this video, we're going to graph on the coordinate plane. This is a review. Most of you, probably all of you, have done this before. After this video, you will be able to plot ordered pairs on a coordinate plane. Take a minute to discuss with a partner, someone you're sitting with or someone around you, where you might use the concept of a coordinate plane in real life. This is what a coordinate plane is. And write your ideas below. Alternatively, you can brainstorm on your own. I want you to think about why there's a need to have a coordinate plane for plotting points. Why do we need a setup to graph points like we have shown below, which you've probably done many times in middle school. So we're doing a quick refresher today. There is an interesting story about how the coordinate plane was invented. I encourage you to research that and let me know. The coordinate plane is made up of the x-axis, which you see here in red, and the y-axis, which you see here in blue. There is a positive section of each and a negative section of each. The intersection of the two axes is called the origin, and that's 0, 0. That's the beginning place. Just like the origin story of a superhero story is the start, the origin is the start of plotting points. So we start there, and then we go left or right for the x coordinate, and second we do up or down for the y coordinate, and you see those steps right here. Before we do some plotting for our ordered pair, so our ordered pair X, Y, and you notice in the tables that we had in the last unit, they were in this order. You can imagine a table, it started with an X, Y. We write them with parentheses to show that they are together as a set. X, comma, Y is always how you're going to see that. But before we plot points, I want to label the quadrants of our coordinate plane. So we call the positive quadrant. So everything in this quadrant right here, which we're going to call quadrant 1, often you'll see that done with Roman numerals. You can just write the number 1. That would work also. In this first quadrant, as we call it, or quadrant number 1, the x value and the y value are both positive. As we name the quadrants, we go counterclockwise. So the second quadrant is here, and you can see right here that the x values are negative and the y values are positive. They're positive along here. Then we continue counterclockwise, that this quadrant right here is the third quadrant, and you can see that the x values here are negative and the y values are also negative. So this is a negative quadrant, as we call it. And if we continue in that counterclockwise, we see that this is called the fourth quadrant, and we can see that the x's are positive this way and the y's are negative. Now let's practice some plotting down below. For question 1, we are going to plot these coordinates on our coordinate plane. It is always helpful to label our x and y axis. It just gives us a nice visual. And so for our first example, we have 2, 6. And so we start with the x, and you start from the origin. So we're going to start here at 0, and we go 2 to the right, that's a positive 2, and then up 6, because that is a positive 6, and we put our point right there. And we're going to label that with the letter A, since that was A. Taking a look at B, which is -4, -7. If I go to start at the origin and then I have a -4, that means I'm going to go left 4, and the y value is -7, which means I'm going to go down 7. When it's negative, it's down in that direction. And so then I'll put a point there. oops, put a point at negative 4, 7, and that coordinate is B, so we're going to label that with B. And we'll do one last one. C is negative 5, 0. Negative 5, 0 means I start at the origin, and I'm going left 5. For Y, it's 0, which means I don't go up or down at all. And so I'm going to put my dot right here, and this is C. I want us to take a minute and label what our quadrants are. So remember, this is the first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. When I look at my coordinates over here, A is in the first quadrant, B is in the second quadrant. What quadrant is C in? It's on the axis, the x-axis between 2 and 3. When it is on an axis, it is not in a quadrant. So we would say that this is on the x-axis, because that's the axis that it is on. So in addition to plotting the remaining points here, I want you to name what quadrant the point is, just like we did in the first 3 examples. For question 2, we're going to write the coordinates of the points graphed in the coordinate plane before. Before I do that, I would like to label my axes and my coordinate or quadrants. So first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, fourth quadrant, please do the same. And I have my x-axis and my y-axis. And just to remember that it is always going to be x, y for my ordered pair. It's a great idea to write that at the top of your page so that you have that visual reminder. So for question 1, A, we find that here in the fourth quadrant, and we can see that the x value is 4 and the y value is negative 3. So let's record that here, that the x value is 4, the y value is negative 3, and we write that as a coordinate, which means it has parentheses around it and a comma between that. I need to see all parts of that when you write that on your paper. Looking at B is here on the axis. That's on the y-axis. And so the x coordinate here, it's not going left or right at all. So that makes that 0. And the y coordinate is up 2 right here. And so it's going to be 0, 2 for that point. And then looking at C, you can see that is here in the third quadrant right here. And it is going through these 2 values. So it is left 1, down 5. So that is going to be negative 1 for the x and negative 5 for the y. Please do the rest. A quick summary here, you can flip over to the front page and highlight anything that you may have missed, but an ordered pair is always in the form of x comma y, that's the coordinate. And you can think of that as you start at the origin, and then first you go along the x-axis, left or right, and second, you follow the y coordinate up or down along the y-axis. So for this point 1, 2, you start at the origin, you go to the right 1 because it's positive 1, and you go up 2 because it's positive 2, and you put your dot there.